Hi. Sorry about that.
Hey.
How you doing?
Good. How are you doing?
Good.
All ready?
Awesome. Hi, Daryl.
Hello.
How's it going? Oh, he's on mute.
Doing well.
Good.
I like the background, Daryl. Looks nice with the plant.
Yes.
Yeah, I was debating. Is it all painting, plant, or both?
I like both.
Get a bit of both.
Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect.
Amazing. All right. So I'm going to make you the host.
Okay. And so, Sam, I guess, is Marnie going to be the one who's going to be asking questions?
Yes.
Okay. And so when Marnie asks questions, her face will pop up and then mine will pop back up when I'm talking. Is that how it's going to go?
It's up to the viewer. So because with Zoom, you could do speaker view or gallery view, so you can kind of like everyone in your thing. But when it's recorded on Zoom, as it is right now, it'll flip to speaker view. So we will just basically see the two of you kind of flip back and forth.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
And Marnie, right now your name says Danny.
Thank you. I'll change that. Thank you so much.
No problem.
All right. Okay, and I'm gonna let them know to raise their hand, that little emoji, if they have any questions, like throughout.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And so I have the script here. We'll go over it. I'm going to say hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Powerhouse, Daryl Ching. And then I'm going to I was going to just drop in the chat how you're feeling today from 1 to 5. How are we doing? Kind of just get them flowing to be interactive right away. And then I'm lagging a little.
Just a little bit. I'm not sure if you have a lot of things open right now, or just want to make sure your internet's good for when we start.
How's it been since?
Better.
Yeah,
better.
Okay now. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. I'm going to continue. Today's webinar is powered by our exclusive bank partner, CIBC. If this is your first City Moguls event, welcome to our fabulous community. My name is Marnie, and I just joined the team as the new community manager. I'm going to continue. We have a couple events coming up that I want to remind you of. Members, the cruise, and then I'm going to post in the chat right after that. Check out the accelerator program here. Then I have to post that in the chat. Also next Wednesday at 5 p.m. we have our monthly networking happy hour. We hope to see you there. Now to introduce our very special guest and MOGUL member, Daryl Ching. And then I have your introduction here, Daryl Ching, CFA, founder of Vistance Capital Advisory. Did I say that properly?
Yep, Vistance. It's like going the distance, but with a B.
I love that. Vistance.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, is well recognized as an expert in structured finance. And I'm going to continue all of these things. And then I'm going to continue. And then I'm going to say if anyone does have any questions along the way, feel free to drop them in the chat or raise your hand and we can answer them for you. We want to have the chance to interact as well today. And then I'm going to say, Daryl, take the floor. Let's get started. How's that sound?
Perfect.
Amazing.
And then you'll dive into the question number 1, right?
Okay, cool. So that's what I wanted to ask you about the questions. So you want me to start with a question?
Yeah. So I think what we want to do is maybe go through questions 1 to 3 at least, just to get a flow going. And then at question 3, stop and see if there's any questions. And if there's none, move on to question 4 and so forth.
So do you want me to say question 1, 2, and 3 right out? The questions we have for you are, what are the traits that you see in successful leaders in startups and small businesses?
No, let's go one by one. So that you ask question 1, I answer the question, and you say, okay, just to follow up to that, here's question 2.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
All right, Marnie, I don't know if you want to play a little bit of music while we have some people.
Sure, I love that.
Excellent.
Yeah.
This is going to be the most chill webinar in the history of webinars.
I love it. Love
I didn't even bother putting on a suit.
it. Okay, click share. You know what I have actually? I have a really I love Disney. We're gonna play a little Disney here today. Hi everyone. Welcome. How are we doing?
Roshini is one of my staff, so she will hold me accountable and call me out for BS if what I'm saying is not true.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Hello.
Hi, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Great. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm just trying to maximize this. There we go.
I love the
This
name
is the
Go For
Disney
It
vibes
Deliveries.
today.
It's like, that's a
Thank
catchy
you.
name.
Yeah, we have a poll on Facebook right now, or on our website, I guess, whether we can brand have a go for-ific day and have people say it. But my husband is my partner and says no. So we put it to a poll. And so far, banning the word go for-ific is winning, but still.
Yeah, excellent.
Mhm.
So the name of my company is Vistance, and it's a combination of the word vista and distance. I actually had a marketing research company do my branding, and they interviewed a bunch of entrepreneurs and some of my clients, and they kept saying, well, Daryl sees the big picture. So that theme kept coming up, and so the word vista came into account, and then it's taking my clients the distance. So we combined vista and distance to get that name.
That's awesome. I just thought it was cute. And so we said, let's go for it. And that was, yeah, we didn't put as much thought into it as we should have, but that's neat.
No, but
I like
yours is catchier and more clever than mine. So
that. My husband came up with it. Thank you. Thank you.
no problem.
Good, all the people.
Amazing.
Hello,
Hi
how are you?
everyone. Come on in.
Happy Thursday.
Was I able to sell out this event?
I honestly,
Yeah.
this is so exciting. People keep popping in. Hello, everyone. If you would
Hello.
all like to turn your cameras on, we'd love to see your smiling faces on this Thursday morning, Thursday afternoon. Come on in.
Is Danny going to make us dance today?
Hey, everybody.
Do a little dance party. Carol, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Andrew is eating lunch. Love that. Yes.
Almost didn't make it. Almost didn't make it.
Glad you did.
How is everybody?
So good. How are you?
I'm good. It's supposed to be 20 degrees out today. I'm just looking forward to it.
I
Right?
love that.
I know, right? Like I'm so looking forward to it right now.
Amazing. Happy
Yeah.
spring.
I know.
All right. I love this. Everyone jumping on. More and more people. Hello. We're going to get started in about a minute. We're just going to wait one more minute and then we'll get started.
I just love that your last name is Marnie Florence because I rarely see another Florence.
Okay, same with you. I rarely see another Florence. I saw you at, did I see you
You were
at an
at
event?
Christine's event. I meant to say it yesterday, but I just couldn't. I didn't have time because we were in the breakout room so fast.
I was like, Florence, and she said your name though. It was so cool.
Hi,
So
Sam.
nice to meet
see ya.
you.
Hi.
Yay. All right, everyone, we're going to get started in just a few moments. As we say our hellos, we're going to put ourselves on mute and commence this lovely meeting. Okay. Oh yes, more and more people keep popping in. I love that. Amazing, amazing. We'll wait just a few more moments for everyone to jump in. And those of you who don't have your camera on, if you'd like to turn your camera on, we'd love to see your face. All right. All right, so before we get started, Everyone drop in the chat from 1 to 5. How are you feeling today? Let's get interactive right away. How are you feeling today? Drop in the chat a 1, 2, a 5. Florence says 6. Let's go. A 10. 5, 10, 8, 4. I love this. Amazing, amazing. Good. Glad I happy to not see any ones. There we go. Well, hopefully your day is gonna just get better from here. Hello, everyone. Love it, love it. All right. So just going to get ready here. Amazing. All right. Let's jump right in. So hello, everyone, and welcome to today's powerhouse webinar, Empowering Your People is the Key to Empowering Your Business with Daryl Ching. Today's webinar is powered by our exclusive bank partner, CIBC. If this is your first City Moguls event, welcome to our fabulous community. My name is Marnie, and I just joined the team as the new community manager. It's nice to meet everyone. We have a couple of events coming up that I just wanted to quickly remind you of. For members, a quick reminder that the deadline to apply for Mogul Cruise Spring Edition is Sunday, March 28th. Please sign up through your portal. If you have further questions, please send Sam a message. We have totally revamped the program once again, which now includes a one-to-one mentorship program as well. So you can check out the accelerator program. I'm going to drop it in the chat right here. Awesome. All right. Also, next Wednesday at 5 p.m., we have our monthly networking happy hour event, and we hope to see you all there. Now to introduce our very special guest and Mogul member, Daryl Ching. Daryl Ching, CFA, founder of Vistance Capital Advisory, is well recognized as an expert in structured finance. He has made numerous appearances on the Business News Network, and he has been quoted in major newspapers and magazines across Canada. Daryl has over 10 years of experience in investment banking, primarily at RBC Capital Markets, and spent another 10 years working in an exclusive capacity, operating small businesses, raising over 50 million equity and debt financing. In early 2019, Daryl rebranded his consulting business, expanding resources to include more capital raising and CFO services. Daryl has worked in almost every facet of the financial world, gaining valuable knowledge and insights, which he now brings to the table to benefit his clients. Daryl completed the Honors Economics program at the University of Western Ontario and is a CFA Charterholder. Daryl also served on the investment committee of Maple Leaf Angels for over a year. Wow, Daryl, we are super impressed and excited to have you join us today. We are going to keep it super chill environment here. Daryl is going to start the conversation, and we're going to keep it like a fireside chat today where we have some questions prepared. If anyone does have any questions along the way, feel free to either drop them in the chat or raise your hand with the little emoji and we can answer them for you. We want to have the chance to have this super interactive. All right, Daryl, let's get started. So the first question I have for you today is, what are the traits that you see in successful leaders in startups and small businesses?
Thank you, Marnie, for that question. Before I answer that question, I think a bunch of you are probably sitting here going, wow, impressive bio, structured finance. What's this guy doing talking to us about people and empowerment? And I'll answer that question. I think as a CFO working with many businesses, what I discovered was that the recipe for success didn't lie in a great product, a great idea, and that wasn't really the key determinant of whether a business succeeded or not. What I discovered in my years as CFO was it was really embedded in the culture and the people. And that to me was the greatest determinant of whether a business would succeed or not. And it starts with the CEO's attitude towards people. You meet CEOs out there that are on a shoestring budget, so they view people as a commodity where it's like, I'm going to just hire contractors that I churn, or I just hire at minimum wage and I make all the decisions. And that's one way to do it. But to me, the most successful trait of a company that is going to succeed is a CEO that believes that people are the greatest assets of the company, the attitude that when I hire people, these are going to be my future managers, future executives, and therefore I'm going to make sure that I hire people with potential. That means I may pay a little bit more at the outset than I would going the other route, but really it positions yourself for success because you hire people that are critical thinkers, that are able to make decisions, that doesn't have to have everything escalate to the top. And so that's really a key determinant for me, is the attitude towards people. Also setting the right culture. I think that good CEOs recognize that a good idea can come from anywhere. And so they don't dismiss ideas coming from the front line. In fact, people on the front line that deal with customers every day actually may have a better vantage point on how to improve the business than executives sitting at the top that don't really know exactly what is going on. And so this recognition that a good idea can come from anywhere, and an encouragement of your employees to bring up good ideas, is vitally important. Similar to that, also bringing up problems or issues and allowing an environment where people can be candid is also vital. For a lot of crises that I've seen happen where companies got into trouble, more often than not, somebody in the company saw it coming, and they could see that this was a problem, but were afraid to raise it because they didn't want to get somebody in trouble. And so you really need to create an environment where people are not afraid that the messenger will get shot for bringing up an idea, whether it's good or bad. So this culture of openness and honesty is really important. And one of the ways to do that is for CEOs to show some vulnerability. So I think a CEO needs to be able to say, I was wrong, I apologize. That is the correct way to do it. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. And I can even bring that an example from my own business, where I see a couple of my employees on the call right now, and where I saw a complex transaction that I thought was done incorrectly for one of our clients. And I pointed it out and I said, no, this is wrong. Please do it this way. To which they countered and said, Daryl, I fundamentally believe that this is the right way to do this transaction. And then my partner got involved and said, actually, Daryl, I agree with your employee. That was actually the right way to do it. I came forward, apologized, admitted my mistake, and thanked them for correcting me and making me a better person and enlightening me on this information. So when people see that even I have made a mistake, then managers feel like they can make mistakes. Then other employees feel like they can make mistakes. And people have to feel this openness and honesty, because then you don't foster a culture where people hide mistakes and errors and just don't say anything and have problems fester until they come to a boiling point. So on a high level, that sort of answers my question in terms of what are some of the intangibles that you don't hear about a lot that kind of give me an indicator whether a business will succeed or not.
Absolutely. Sam wrote in the chat, what's the how in creating an environment? So
it comes from the top, and it is like the example that I gave. When we do our, town halls are for big companies. I'm not doing a town hall yet. I don't have enough employees for a town hall. But when we do our group meeting, it is enforcing it. Listen, team, good idea can come from anywhere. I encourage everyone to give ideas. Have a meeting where people give ideas on how to improve the business. And what I stress to new employees, even brand new employees that come in, is listen, just because we were doing things this way doesn't mean it's the best way to do it. If you bring some experience from another job that you've had, or you have a better idea of how to improve a process, please suggest that as an improvement. Don't feel like you're offending somebody. We'll look into it, because we constantly want to improve. And so it is creating this environment where you're constantly encouraging people to give ideas, and to constantly look for areas of improvement. And when you have the CEO constantly reinforcing that message, it trickles down. Managers start enforcing that message. Employees start enforcing that message, and that's how it gets done.
Awesome. Another question I have for you, for the group. What are some of the less desirable traits you've witnessed in startups and small businesses?
So, Marty, as I mentioned earlier, I think people that view people as commodities, right? And again, when I go to an organization and it's a team of contractors on short-term contracts, interns, it just is, it's not a recipe for success. And I understand that people have budgets in the beginning, especially for startups, but it really pays, in my opinion, to pay that extra $10,000 to $15,000 annual salary premium for somebody who could do critical thinking and actually make better decisions. And it's going to save you money in the long run because you're not having to second guess and double check everything that that employee is doing. So that to me is part of it. I'll touch a bit on flawed partnerships because a lot of businesses start as partnerships. You have a friend and you want to start a business. When you are looking to start a business, it's important for CEOs to recognize when you have gaps or shortfalls. So if you're an inventor, for example, you may not be the most brilliant branding and marketing person, and therefore you probably want to bring in a partner who is solid in that space because you really can't launch a business without being good at marketing, or you want that gap filled with an agency that's strong. So some of the flaws I see is when I see, for example, 2 or 3 partners that all have the same background. So they all came from business school, they all are visionaries, and they all type A, chase shiny objects, don't leave no stone unturned. When I see that as an executive team, there's no one to balance each other. They don't keep each other in check, and they reinforce this idea of we need to expand really quickly. We need to expand really quickly. And one of the biggest reasons for failure in a business is businesses trying to do too much in the beginning. They take on too many tasks. They try to drive for too much revenue, and they blow themselves up as a result. So it's really one of the flaws I see is partnerships where there's no balance. A really easy way to see if there's a flaw is often when I'm going in for a CFO engagement, I'll sit in the office for 2 hours with the CEO, and I'll see how often the CEO gets interrupted. And I've been in this case where I saw a CEO get interrupted every 15 minutes because he had to make a quick decision for somebody. And that to me is unsustainable. And again, goes back to my theme of, well, have you actually hired people who can make decisions and actually come up with good ideas? CEOs that are constantly working 24/7, they're emailing you on Saturdays and Sundays. Some people think that's desirable. I don't think it is. Because, when I see a CEO operate that way, it often comes with the fact that they're disorganized. They're often not creating processes and a routine that allows them to separate their day. So they spend a few hours on strategy and a few hours on day-to-day operations and things like that. So that to me is a troubling sign when they're constantly on their phone, and when you're talking to them, they're answering urgent texts all the time. That's a bad sign to me. And again, I brought up the idea of chasing shiny objects. And I'll give another example of something that I saw that didn't work well. And that's the mistake CEOs make, that just because one person is good at something necessarily means they're good at everything. So I was in a company where a CEO walked into the office one day and said, I've got a new revenue stream idea. I'm going to take my top 2 performers that are on our core business, put them on this new project of creating new revenue. Please don't drop the ball on your current job. Spend some time on this, but we want to generate this new revenue. You guys are in charge of this. Go for it. And long story short, it came out to be a complete disaster. If I fast forward the clock, project never got off the ground. 2 people blamed each other for not doing work, and the ball got dropped on the core business. And let's look at what happened. You had a CEO tells an employee, I want you to focus on this brand new project that's exciting for me. There's a tendency for people to want to get excited and want to work on this new project, especially if it's assigned by the CEO of a company. And so they dropped the ball and they stopped focusing on what they were good at. And also, if you look at the skill set required for launching a new revenue stream, there's a project management aspect. There's business planning, budgeting, creating a write-up for management to review. And just because you were good entering a core business that already had processes in place does not necessarily mean you're great at launching a new project. So it requires a recognition of identifying key strengths among your team and knowing where to put people in the right seats. And understanding that just because someone is a superstar in one area doesn't mean they're going to outperform in all other areas. So I cautioned that as well. So Florence, I think in a nutshell, that kind of sums up quite a few of the weaknesses that I've seen in businesses that led to failure.
Absolutely. Thank you. Andrea wrote in the chat, she says, this past year has been difficult and I have had to decrease my team due to decreases in revenue. We're beginning to see an increased demand. However, the finances are not stable or sustainable. However, we will need team members soon. What is your advice in this situation?
Okay, so Andrea, that's a really good question. And actually, I've been consulting a lot of people through COVID that have had a significant impact in their business. And March 15th hit, and a lot of people made immediate layoffs as they had to, as a requirement. And what ended up happening was, as revenue started returning to pre-pandemic levels and they started seeing a lift in their revenue again, they realized, oh gosh, I actually don't have to hire everyone back. We're actually leaner and more efficient. And what ended up happening was a realization that they were not structured efficiently. And when you were in a startup mode, you are just throwing resources at projects. You're getting people here, you do this, you do that. And you're not actually sitting down and thinking, am I organized as efficiently as possible? And a lot of things started happening during COVID, positive and negative. But on the positive side,
He just froze for a moment, but he'll be back soon. How are we doing so far, everyone? Good? Amazing.
Yeah, it's great.
Awesome.
Super insightful.
He speaks so well. Yeah, it's so great.
He's got a lot to offer. Wow. What he said makes a lot of sense too. Pre-pandemic, we were at a certain level, and then all of a sudden,
He's gonna join again. Yeah, absolutely.
right? So
I come from an HR background, so it's so important that you're investing in your employees first, because they essentially are the ones that are going to take care of your customers and your clients, right? So this is a really good topic.
absolutely, they're an extension of you. If you're at the top, then it's important to know who's on the front lines, and because they see everything, and to take the information from them and use it to make proper decisions and empower them to be extensions of you and make decisions as though they are representing you is important. And he's right. Everything that he says makes sense. Absolutely.
Yeah, there's a good book called The Loyalty Effect.
Oh, really?
And it just talks about, if you show loyalty to your employees and your vendors, they'll show loyalty back to you, but more importantly, extend that to your clients, your customers. And so it's sort of you have to put that in to get it out.
You know what I've learned over COVID?
You don't have to read the book now.
Exactly. But what I've learned is over COVID is that being compassionate and understanding, because everybody's in the same boat. You got kids and dogs running around behind you. Everybody's on a limited amount of time or budget restraints or whatever the case may be. But if you handle it with love, compassion, and understanding, I think that everybody gets through. Oh, he's back. Sorry.
Thank you, everyone. I love this conversation that has begun.
Sorry, guys. So I go into an office thinking there's going to be more reliable internet than home. And this is what happens.
It's all good. Welcome back.
Okay. Thank you. So I'm doing this on my phone on my LTE.
It wouldn't be a virtual meeting if there wasn't no tech difficulties. So we're used to it.
Okay, perfect. So this is talking about COVID and issues like this. This is a real life situation. So maybe it's good that it happened. But as I was saying, from my perspective, what COVID did was force people to rethink their org structure, rethink a number of things, that they just put everything on hold, and even in the IT structure. And I found that people actually came out better on the other side when revenue improved. And so really it's relooking at the entire organization structure, setting up structure. To me, it's structure first, then people. People get the mistake wrong that they bring in people and figure out where to squeeze them. And it's okay, marketing and branding. This is what I need. What do I need for this area? What expertise do I need? How many people do I need? Logistics, how many people do I need for this? Operations, how many people do I need for this? And then filling seats based on the requirement of the jobs rather than the other way around of going, well, Bob is great, so I'm going to bring Bob in, but then I'll figure out how to squeeze Bob into my organization. And I think that's what people have discovered through COVID. I don't know if that answers the question or if there's any follow-up to that.
Yeah, so for me, it's less about structure. We actually work with EOS. We have a traction approach to our business. So we've done a structural, like we know what our structure needs to be. The issue for us is more about how are we, and I know I'm not alone in this. It's that place where revenue is not meeting what the demands of the business are yet, so it's like, I own a speakers bureau and it's an event. We're speaker coaches.
Okay.
And so I have a coaching team, but we need to actually deliver programs and events. And so do I get back into, you were talking earlier about investing in staff versus having freelancers. And the issue there is that for us, it's like, okay, do I go back into the freelance world, which is expensive, but sustainable in the short term until revenues come, or do I find a way to bite the bullet and bring in low-level staff because I can't afford the more skilled staff at this point and try. And so this is the dilemma that I'm faced with right now.
Yeah, I guess how I would approach the situation. I would ask myself two questions: how certain is this revenue on a go-forward basis? So, is this the type of revenue that may be temporary and may go away? And the second question is, how much capital do I have? And so as as an owner, as a business person, as my personal assets. So from my situation, we're in the accounting world. We deliver CFO services. And I know that when tax season comes up and it's year end, we're going to be swamped in January, February, March. And there's some seasonality to our business. And that does mean that potentially, do I bring in somebody a little bit earlier, get them up to speed in September, October, perhaps lose money for a couple months, but be prepared for tax season so we don't drop the ball on anything. And that means a personal investment on my part. And I was willing to take that risk because I foresaw the revenue coming in that it's gonna be made up for by bringing in staff early. And to my long-term view of, okay, well, I'm gonna keep growing my business, right? And so with the ability to grow the business, then the investment is worthwhile. And therefore it is worth the time and effort to train somebody, because I know that I'm going to see this revenue grow in the future, and any investment that I make is going to be made up for. If there's uncertainties on that, then obviously it's more of a personal question of, are you willing to take that risk and make that investment today?
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, and that's very helpful. Thank you.
No problem.
Awesome. Thank you so much. What would you say creates a really strong leadership team?
So one of the first things that I ask when I do due diligence on companies, or when I start looking at potential CFO engagement, is I ask the CEO, what are your long-term goals? Second follow-up, do your staff know what your long-term goals are? And I think to establish a strong leadership team, that has to be pretty well understood in the company. And so that's one of the first things that I ask. The other thing too is what I brought up in terms of putting people in the right seats and making sure that you have every skill set matched. So, when you start a business, that there's typically an innovator, a visionary that creates products. That there's going to be a huge marketing demand on the company. In today's world, people buy brands, they don't buy products. And often if you are able to create a strong brand, you can sell pretty much any product to a loyal customer base. Well, if you are an innovator, you're not necessarily a good marketer, then you definitely need someone strong on your leadership team who can address marketing. If you're going into the retail world, do you have somebody who's dealt with retailers, negotiated co-op fees, in-store marketing fees and things like that? And if not, then do you have somebody strong in that area that can at least consult or help you in that space? And what happens is I have all these boxes and I say, do you check every box? Do you have somebody strong to address each of those areas? And if the answer is no, then there's obviously a weakness on the team, and there's a gap that needs to be addressed. And from my perspective, I think it's really worthwhile to spend the time required to
I think he knew that I had another book suggestion. So let me give you my second book suggestion because it's relevant to what Daryl's speaking about. There's a book called Built to Last, and what it talks about is what he's talking about, and it's about building your departments and your leadership team to be as stronger than you are. Can you imagine if your full leadership team was filled with CEO level capable people that didn't have that title yet? They could take your job, you could move on, right? If you're the owner, or they could transition out. But by having those people there, they're going to take you further than having someone that's not as strong in a build to last approach in building your leadership team. So I'll put that in the chat. Build to last.
Amazing.
Built to last. Yeah, no worries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
And he's back.
And he's on mute.
Sorry about that, guys.
That's okay. Glad you're back.
I will do these from home from now on. my home internet is better than this office. But I think though I was getting close to concluding what I was saying, but basically it was taking the time. If you take the time to hire the right people, and even if it takes an extra couple months, then you can empower them to do more because you trust them. So I trust my marketing person to make marketing decisions. I know that's not my area of strength. I don't need to weigh in on that area anymore. And I trust this person to make strategic decisions here. So I can focus on my areas of strength. And that to me is how you build a good team and a solid foundation to transition from a small size company into a medium sized company.
Amazing. And speaking on empowering your employees, how do you make your employees more accountable?
So, it comes down to, again, understanding all the long-term goals, and it trickles down because when you have long-term goals for the business, departments can create long-term goals, employees can create long-term goals, and goals on how they can help achieve those corporate goals. So that's the first step. For me, the second step is really identifying the key areas where employees are able to manage goals that are measurable, that are obtainable, and are easy to understand. And so we do performance reviews every 6 months in our company, and there are clear goals set out. Some are quantitative that are easy to assess. So if you have salespeople, it's very simple because you can set sales targets. But for qualitative aspects, I'm going to have things like teamwork, a score of 1 to 5, ranked by other team members as well. How did you operate as a team member? Were you cooperative in sharing information? Accounting knowledge. Are you staying up to speed on accounting? Are you staying up to speed on IFRS guidelines and things like that? And so we have clear guidelines on obtainable goals from 1 to 5, on a score of 1 to 5, 5 being perfect, 4 being very good, 3 being average. And we assess this every 6 months so that they know exactly how they are doing on an ongoing basis. And I think feedback is important, positive and negative, within 24 hours. And so the worst thing that can happen from my perspective is for no feedback to occur. And I think we've all experienced this before. We receive no feedback, and at the end of the year, your manager says, well, you didn't obtain your goal, so there's no bonus for you. And it becomes as a surprise. And that's the worst feeling you can have, because you start to feel frustrated, start to feel disenfranchised, and you're no longer motivated to work for the company because what you do no longer matters. And so it's important to give this feedback as well. When it comes to compensation, I like bonus structures that are tied to performance. And some people say, well, do I do bonuses or do I provide equity? The issue with equity is that equity is not the right compensation for all employees. So if you're an executive level and you have a high degree of influence on profitability, providing options or equity might make a lot of sense. But there are employees that really have not much influence on profitability because they do logistics. And if expenses get out of control because CEOs make bad decisions, that's not within their control. So from my perspective, whether a company does well or not, it is really important to make sure that the entry level and under manager level positions, people actually get their bonuses, whether the company does well or not. And then people say, well, how do I do that? And my company doesn't make money. And I've actually been in businesses before where the executive team was asked to take salary cuts to accommodate this. Because if companies do not perform well, I think a lot more of the responsibility needs to fall on the executive team. And for the solid performers below the manager level, they need to be compensated if they did their jobs well. So you keep key people. And on the flip side, when a company does very well, then it's the management team and the executives that reap the most rewards. So there's a much higher upside for bonus if company achieves their revenue and profitability targets. But really, compensation needs to be structured so that it is aligned with things that you can control that influence the right behavior so that companies are able to meet their goals.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Even the times that you've been popping in and out, everyone else has been talking, being like, wow, this is such amazing information. So you're doing such a great job. Thank you all. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for being here. We have about 15 minutes left. We're going to continue. Oh, Benny has to go. That's okay. See you soon. I want to move into the next question that I have. What best practices do you recommend for operational excellence?
Yeah. So from my perspective, I'm going to go back to my example of when I was sitting in the CEO's office and that person was interrupted every 15 minutes. When you bring in a solid management team, you need to start putting in structure for decision making. And so that people have a clear guideline on what am I empowered to do? What decisions am I empowered to make? And so let's take an example of sales. Well, salespeople might be going out and trying to sell product, and they have to determine whether they want to provide credit terms to customers, whether they want to be able to allow them to pay in 30 days, 60 days, and things like that. And you don't want to have to go to the CEO every time that question comes up. And so from my perspective, one of the examples would be, okay, let's build a credit structure so that if I approach a customer, as a manager of sales, I am empowered to provide a credit term of up to 60 days for a certain type of client that generates a certain amount of revenue. And what you want to do is build a box so that your managers can make 80% of the decisions and only exceptions float up to the CEO level. So you've got a 20% margin where it's like, okay, this is quite complex. Let's make this a question more that floats up to the CEO. So there's basically exceptions. So in each operational area, you create a space where 80% of decision-making is made by managers. And these are clear documented processes that people are able to follow. And everyone understands what exactly they're empowered to do. And that is the best advice that I can offer because once you get to a level where you are a mid-sized company with more than 30 staff, you are now at a stage where you are not able to make day-to-day decisions. That a CEO needs to be focused on business development, on strategy, on vision, on new revenue opportunities. And if you are putting out fires every day, your company is never going to be able to grow because you're never going to be able to focus on growth and some of these new initiatives that are so important at the executive level.
Amazing. Wow. Thank you so much. What are some steps that startup and early stage businesses can take to have a better chance of success?
So, I think this is going to be a bit of recap in terms of things that I've already brought up, but it's really bringing in the right people and having the long-term goals at the outset. It is very hard to do, but one of the things that I see is actually taking the executive team away for a team strategy meeting. I think one of the things that happens in businesses is that we get so embroiled in day-to-day operations and putting out fires that we are focused too much on short-term decision making and think what's important today. And so one of the things that we try to do is that we will set up sessions where you actually take the team away out of the office for a period of let's just call it half a day or a full day, and whiteboard ideas and come up with strategies in terms of where do we want to see our business go? Where do we want to be in 5 years? What other revenue streams do we want to attack? What other locations do we want to be in? Do we want to stay in Canada, or do we want to be able to expand into other geographies? What do we need to do to get into those geographies as well? And when you actually get away from the office and you whiteboard and you start thinking at a 30,000 foot level, you actually begin to see things and you get to see clarity on large scale issues that are plaguing the company that you cannot see if you're embroiled in day-to-day fires. And so, that's an important process that we like to go through and set up. And it's just to take a step back and look at everything from a 30,000 foot level.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I want to open the floor. If anyone has specific questions for Daryl, you can totally ask them right now. You can either unmute yourself or raise your hand, or you can put it in the chat. For the next 5 minutes, we're going to have an open now questions totally from everyone.
And Marty, maybe while people are thinking of questions, I'll dive into one more topic, and that's recognition, and it goes back to the accountability question. And I think that one of the things that I noticed is that it goes also back to the question of, well, I can't compensate people right now, so how do I give out bonuses? And there are things that large companies do well, and I crap on them for a lot of for the bureaucracy and the red tape that I see, but recognition is one of the things that are very, very important. And, a lot of times it actually can be more powerful than compensation. So CEOs often are so embroiled in day-to-day, sometimes they just don't know what their staff are currently working on. They don't know when their staff do great things. So encouraging managers to approach the CEO and tell you when somebody has done something above and beyond what was required, and just walking up to an employee, tapping on the shoulder and saying, you know what, I know you worked late on Friday to get that project done, so thank you very much for that. That was great, and it helped the team. I appreciate that. That can mean so much to an employee, that one comment. And at a company that I was at called Coventry, we use corporate credit cards, so we were able to purchase movie tickets and use rewards and redeeming points from the corporate credit cards. And what we would do at our monthly town hall is that we would recognize people for certain things. And the key is, don't recognize people only from sales and marketing. They seem to get the most recognition when things happen. There are people in logistics that never get recognition. There are people in administration that never get recognition. It's really centering on those people that don't get that recognition and saying, you know what, Marnie did a great job on Monday. She went above and beyond, helped a teammate finish a task that wasn't part of her job description. And, for going above and beyond, we want to recognize Marnie for that. Here's some movie tickets and a pass and a coupon for a dinner. And that can go a long way. At ING, they called it the Count on Me rewards. They had a program where people were secretly nominating others for going above and beyond and putting in a ballot box. And HR was choosing, and people that got nominated the most were getting rewards called the Count on Me rewards. So they would actually get a trophy at the year-end dinner that they had. So that's another area that you can improve accountability, is making sure that people are recognized for their efforts. So along with ensuring that you now I'll go into the carrot and the stick. There are also times where people are need to be disciplined because of infractions or because of underperformance. And I think that feedback needs to be given privately within 24 hours. And when you provide that feedback, it's helpful to give 2 or 3 examples of that rather than making a vague statement. So here's the mistake you made. On September 3rd, you did this. On October 4th, you did this. We're seeing a little bit of a pattern here. Let's make sure we see some improvement here. And then determine whether you are providing the right tools so they can actually make that improvement. So was it a careless mistake that they can correct? Or was this a, there's a gap in knowledge or gap in information that maybe I need to provide training so they can make that improvement. So that's another area that I wanted to talk about a little bit, was in terms of recognition and providing the right tools so people can improve when you see that there needs to be areas for improvement.
Love that. Absolutely. Thank you so much. Does anyone have any further questions for Daryl at this moment?
Mine's not just a question, it's more of a comment, but Daryl, thank you so much for the chat. Again, because I come from an HR background, this is really interesting to me, but it's also too, in the sense of we were talking about leaders and building teams, I think it's also important if a leader can therefore pick somebody who's not a carbon copy of them, meaning have a varied scope of your staff. So that way you're playing on each other's strengths and helping each other in their weaknesses. So I think that's important to point out too.
100%. I love that you said that. And it comes back to my example of having the 2 or 3 partners are all graduated from business school and are visionaries. And, if you are a type A person who, goes after shiny objects and, you want someone to balance you. So you want a partner that actually is more analytical. It's going to say, well, Daryl, slow down. Maybe we should think about this a little bit more. Maybe we should do some analysis before we make this decision. And I make the joke about the CEOs that get a phone call from a customer that's interested, and they get on a flight to Dubai to meet this customer. And I see this actually quite more often than not, where CEOs are chasing things. And if you have that personality and that weakness and that gap, and it's obviously a strength and a weakness, you want someone to balance you. And so there's a yin and a yang from personality perspective, but also from a knowledge perspective. If you are an inventor, you want a marketer. If you are a marketing person, you want somebody who will help you with product development. And so that's actually an excellent point.
Amazing. I love this discussion. It's so great. It's really about people. It is. Life is really about people-to-people connection and empowering each other, continuing to lift each other up. And if there are problems, it's hitting them straight on and figuring it out. And then, it's that, the thank yous that go a long way as well.
Yeah. And I mean, Maria, what's funny is you watch shows like Dragon's Den and Shark Tank, and they focus so much on the product itself and whether the size of the market and things like that. And even when you go to investor pitches, sometimes they'll put up a slide on the management team and they'll just have 4 photos, 4 names, and here's our management team. Next slide. And it's just crazy to me how little focus there is on the actual management team, because I think a company that has a mediocre business idea and a mediocre strategy, but with a solid management team that's able to execute on a business plan, actually has a better chance of success than a company with the best product, best strategy, but a poor team that cannot execute, because failure comes from execution. And more often than not, when I see businesses fail, it's because they did not have the right team in place and it didn't have the people that are able to execute. So, I think it's one of the fallacies of due diligence when people look at investment opportunities. They do not appreciate how important the people are, and they focus too much on too many of the other aspects, and are surprised when a business fails. It's like, how did that happen? They had the best idea, the best product, and this is why.
Yeah, Ro, go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt. Daryl, again, fascinating. Everything that you say resonates on so many different levels. I don't know about everybody else's background, but I personally am a sole proprietor, and I had brought on other, as you say, contractors because of the nature of my business. Mm-hmm. But since COVID, we went from 457% of our objective down to 12%, and we've had to slowly break apart and rebuild. My concern now is almost threefold. How do I rebuild to be able to bring on more because I have the story, I have the KPIs, but it's a matter of our branding strategy and how to get that information out. Once we've done that, what is the best approach to bring on the right employees? Because I would like to ultimately bring on not employees, but I would like to bring them all on as partners or people of my family, right? I've realized over COVID that, again, and I was saying this earlier, that I think if you empower the people that you bring on board, then they will make the right decisions based on what you want and or what you require as a whole.
Mhm.
But my concern comes from, I think it's because of the nature of the business that I have. I'm in academics. How do I, and what my next steps should be that are proper without having to make the mistakes that I did. Without, I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't want to make the wrong decision, right?
Mhm.
I want to make the right decision, and I want to build slowly. I want to build a robust team, because even though it happens organically, it takes a little bit longer. At least you know there's longevity in that. And
Mhm.
I get concerned because, with everything that's going on, you want to bring on the right people, but you also don't want to sacrifice many things along the way, like your brand, your strategy, and all of that. So I guess really what I'm trying to say is, how do you know you've got the right approach with the people that you're bringing on board, and how do you go further with that?
Well, let me clarify. Is there a funding constraint? Is that part of the issue in the terms of having the right capital to do it, or is it more of a strategy perspective?
It's definitely a funding constraint, because being a sole proprietor, I was like, we can, I guess offline we can talk a little bit more about it, but yes, at this point, just to answer your question, high level, it was funding. I had to carry my own family for 10 months during COVID, and
Mhm.
and now it is rebuilding. I've got a steady growth of like 9.5% per month, but I'm trying to figure out how I can get a stronger message out there, build a better rap sheet, so that way I can go to maybe investors and say, hey, listen, here's an opportunity.
Right. Okay. So, Rahul, I think, you don't need to run, you can walk, right?
Absolutely.
And so if, for example, you just determine your first key employee that you have, and you envision what this person's going to do. So you sort of create that org structure where you say, these are the key people, and you start filling them one by one so that you minimize your risk. So you hire employee one under this mandate with this criteria, and you see how that works out. 3-month probationary period so that you can let them go if it doesn't quite work out. So you minimize the risk, and you start bringing them on slowly over time. And then you see the lift in revenue, and you're able to bring on employee number 2 in March, bring on employee number 3 in June, when you actually see that there's sustainability in the revenue. And that's one way, I think, to minimize that risk. From a funding perspective, we could go offline and talk about all the government programs that are available. I think that's a completely different topic. But, there are ways and approaches to approach the bank to ensure that you have a higher chance of getting funding. And I know this is not a funding and finance seminar, but I'll just give this one piece of advice. There's a lot of people that go to the bank and say, hey, I need a loan. What do I need to give you? And they get declined right away.
Right.
And so we've been coaching people on how to approach banks for funding strategies. If you went into a bank with a business plan, with the impact of COVID right up in terms of how did COVID impact your business, how did you react, how did you adapt, and what's your plan going forward, and you come up with a cash flow model of about 12 to 18 months of projections, and you say, okay, here's my business plan, here's my cash flow. I need $150,000, an exact amount. This will carry me through for this interim period for 8 months, and then I'm back on track. You take that approach with confidence going to a bank, your chance of getting funding, it goes up tenfold because of your approach of how you do it. So that's a completely different discussion and I've done seminars on more on the finance aspect of it. But because you've asked that question, and capital is a constraint, that's something else to consider. And just to make sure you're taking advantage of all government programs that you qualify for, the federal and Ontario government continue to release programs to help businesses that are struggling.
Yeah, I'd like to be able to talk to you offline, Daryl, if you've got the time. I know you're busy, and I don't want to, capitalize on your valuable opportunities. But if we could maybe set that up, that'd be great.
Perfect. Yeah, for sure.
I love this. Amazing, amazing. We are going to wrap up today. Thank you all so much for being here. Daryl, thank you so much for your insight. I'm going to drop in the chat where you can connect with Daryl going forward after this. And we hope to see you all at our upcoming events. Members, if you'd like the chance to potentially host an event like Daryl did, you can fill out the form right here. I'm going to post that in the chat as well. And again, thank you all so much for being here. And Daryl, thank you so much.
Thank you, Marnie. I apologize for all the tech glitches. I guess this is a mirror of what's happening with COVID, unfortunately, but my next webinar is going to be done from home where I have more reliable internet.
That's okay. It's all good. Glad you jumped on. All right, everyone, have a lovely rest of your day. Enjoy the sunshine. Thank you again so much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.